Christmas is getting closer every single day, and with there being so many incredible Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2 games that have come out in the last year, I thought I'd try to wrap them all up in a nice little present so you can figure out which games are worth your money or worth asking for Christmas, and which games you should most definitely avoid. And don't worry, this guide isn't just games, we also have a bunch of accessories at the end, which I also recommend. So as I mentioned, we're going to be covering not only Nintendo Switch games, but also Nintendo Switch 2 games. And to make things super simple so you know which console you can play this on, we're going to have a little system. Up in the corner there, you're either going to see a Switch logo, a Nintendo Switch 2 logo, or both. If you see a Nintendo Switch logo, then this means that the game was made for the Nintendo Switch console. Now this game will also work on the Nintendo Switch 2, but it won't be optimized for it, so you're not really going to be playing games at their full capacity. If you see both a Nintendo Switch and a Nintendo Switch 2 logo, that means that there is both versions available. Sometimes they're for the same price, sometimes you have to pay a little bit extra for the Switch 2 version, but either way, it doesn't matter which console you own because you're going to be able to play it. Finally, if it has a Nintendo Switch 2 logo, then this means it's a Switch 2 exclusive. So this game will not work on the Nintendo Switch and only on the Nintendo Switch 2. So don't be buying these games for people who just own a Switch. Now this video is going to be split into different sections based on the game's price. And we're going to be starting off today with games under $20. And first up we're going to cover is This Seat Taken, as this is currently under $10 and is absolutely fantastic, as this is a puzzle game with a little bit of a difference, as it's all about placing people in the correct seat. Now, even though this sounds simple at first, this is honestly such a creative game, as this will see you take on a number of different scenarios, each getting progressively harder. Now, the very beginning of the game starts things off nice and easy, and will require you to sit people down in a limo, with each person having their own preferences. And this could be anything from sitting by the window, making sure they're sat by their best friends, or making sure that they're sat all by themselves. But as you go on and you take on different scenarios, people get a lot pickier, and you have to be a lot more careful if you want to score the maximum points in each level. The only downside to Is This Seat Taken is that I wish that it was longer. It's fantastic, and I can't recommend it enough to someone who's looking for a puzzle-like game. Next, onto a game you probably want to avoid for the same price, and this is Welcome Tour. If we're being honest, this game should have been free with the Nintendo Switch 2, as it is effectively just a tech demo. It shows off all of the functionality of the Nintendo Switch 2 with fun little mini games and even trivia questions, but considering the fact that you can buy real games at this price point, this is definitely not worthwhile. Then we have Tiny Bookshop, which is just under $20. This is probably the standout game to me at this price point. Tiny Bookshop is utterly fantastic, as this is a cozy management game that sees you run a tiny bookshop out of the back of a shed. But the reason Tiny Bookshop stood out to me is that it's so much more than just a management game. Because not only do you get to manage the shop, but there's also a story running alongside everything that you get told through your interactions with the locals. And over time, not only do you get to see your store grow, but you also get to see yourself become a part of the community. Now, the management gameplay loop itself is a lot of fun, as each day you get to pick the location where you want to set up your shop, and this is largely based on what the weather's going to be like that day. Then, before you open, you need to stock your shop with all the books that you want to sell, which will be dependent on which location you're at. And then it's your job to sell them. But the standout mechanic for the game is actually the recommendations. You see, for the most part, customers just come in and find whatever books they want to buy and leave. But every now and again, a customer is actually going to ask you for help. And this means you need to go through your whole collection of real-life books, read the blurb for each and every one of them, and then suggest the right one to the customer based on what they're looking for. And the fact that every single book that you stock is a real-life book is just an absolutely fantastic touch to this game. This is a fantastic game regardless of whether you read often, or if you're someone like me and reads a book every couple of years. But this truly is a lot of fun and a fantastic pick. We also have Discounrt for just under $20, and again, I recommend this a lot. This is a cross between two very different genres that you don't really see overlap, and that is that it is a life sim, but also a supermarket sim. So essentially, this sees you do your normal supermarket sim stuff, with you stocking the shelves each and every day, buying produce, and checking out each of the customers, but underpinning all of it is a fantastic story all about capitalism. And even though these two genres don't sound like something that would work well together, this game is so much fun. As the fact that this game has a story means that all of the stuff you do in the supermarket sim has a purpose. And this means that there's always stuff to do, be it different goals you need to meet in the supermarket itself to try and upgrade it, or it's relationships you need to make in order to forge trade deals and get a better price on your produce. And honestly, I think most people are going to have a great time with this game. Next up, let's talk about Dinkum, which again is just under $20. I do really enjoy Dinkum, but I do know the visuals aren't for everyone. And I will say this game looks and plays a lot better off of the Nintendo Switch. So this is less of a definite recommendation, but still worth looking into. The best way to describe Dinkum is it's kind of like Animal Crossing, but in Australia, which means that you've got all of your life sim elements with a little bit of danger from kangaroos and also sharks. Now, the game begins with you leaving your life in the city to start a brand new one on a desolate island. And after setting up the tent, which you get to call home, you can start exploring. Now, this is where things very much differ from Animal Crossing, because as I said, this is set in Australia, so you are not safe running around. So this does have a little bit more combat than you see in the likes of Animal Crossing. But the whole goal of Dinkum is essentially to build up this island and invite new villagers into it to start making a bustling little town. I do think Dinkum is even more fun with friends, so if you want to play a game together, this might be a good one for you. That's it for my recommendations for under $20. Let's go on to the next section, which is games under $50. And we're going to be starting off with a game that I don't recommend at all, but might tempt a lot of people, and this is Tamagotchi Plaza. Now, this is just under $40 on the Switch, but just under $50 on the Switch too. Basically, the only people who will probably very much enjoy this game are people who have played the previous games and loved them. But for a majority of people who are looking at this game thinking that it's going to have really anything to do with Tamagotchis or looking after a Tamagotchi, this is not the game for you. This is essentially a game which is made up of a series of mini games. And in order to progress in the game whatsoever, you need to play these mini games an awful lot. It is incredibly repetitive, and it doesn't really have a story whatsoever other than some lines of text you read at the beginning. And honestly, for this price, I was expecting so much more. So for some people, this might be exactly what they're looking for. For a lot of people though, it's going to be pretty disappointing, and you're better off spending your money on Story of Seasons Grand Bazaar. Now, the Switch 1 version is under $50, but the Switch 2 version does just go over that. But I truly cannot recommend this game enough. If you are looking for a brand new farming sim that goes above and beyond the normal farming sim loop, then Grand Bazaar is the game for you. As not only does this let you do all of your usual farming sim stuff and let you take care of these absolutely adorable chonky cows, you also get to run your own market stall every single Saturday. And even though you only run it weekly, it just changes up the gameplay loop enough for this game to feel so refreshing and different. This has quickly become one of my favorite cozy games of all time, and the Switch 2 version does look and play great, so I personally do think it's worth the upgrade. Next up is another game I love for $24.99, and that is Power Wash Sim 2. The only people who don't understand the draw of Power Wash Sim have just not played it, because the second you get your hands on it and you see how satisfying it is to power wash items, you get sucked in and you understand everything. Now, one thing to note, just in case you didn't know, Power Wash Sim 2 does not work with mouse mode, unfortunately. They say it's something they're looking into, but if that's one of the reasons you wanted to buy it, unfortunately, that's not the case as of right now. But if you did love Power Wash Sim 1, then this is a fantastic sequel, as even though it doesn't change the essence of what made Power Wash Sim so good, it's added so many quality of life features and has had a massive graphics bump on the Switch too. And if you're on the lookout for a game to just purely relax with, this is the one for you. Next up, we have another game to avoid, and that is Tales of the Shire. Now, this had an awful lot of controversy when it released. And I think that's largely because people love Hobbits, people love Lord of the Rings, so people had high hopes for a life sim where you could play as a hobbit. And even though there were a lot of disagreements as to whether the gameplay loop itself was enjoyable, I personally, despite loving cozy games, found it to be a little bit lacking in a lot of elements. But I think the one thing we can all agree on is that this does not look very good on the Nintendo Switch. So if the reviews haven't put you off and you still think this is a game for you, I would recommend buying this anywhere other than the Switch, as the frame rate issues for me personally actually started to make me feel pretty motion sick, so it's just something to bear in mind. Octopath Traveler 0 is another recent release, and one I think that is worth mentioning. Now, I am only about 10 hours into this so far, but I am absolutely loving it. And if you're looking for a long RPG to get into, this might be the game for you. Now, if you are an Octopath lover, then you might want to know that this is a little bit different from all of the other games, mainly because you are the main protagonist and you're not playing as 8 different main characters. The story more or less follows you around with 7 people joining you on your mission. That being said, it's not a linear game. It's still one where you can pick which missions you want to do and jump around a little bit, so don't worry about being tied to just one quest. And the story follows your character trying to rebuild their hometown after it was burnt to the ground. And this is a quest of restoration and retribution. I love the aesthetics, I love the voice acting, this has been a pleasure to play on the Switch too, and honestly, if you know you love the Octopath series, or you want to get a brand new RPG, I do recommend this one. Next we have another game I recommend, and that is Split Fiction. If you are looking for the perfect game to play with a friend or a partner, this is the game for you. Now, if you didn't know, this is made by the same people who made It Takes Two, and again, they've done a fantastic job at making a co-op game just feel incredible to play. Now, Split Fiction follows 2 writers who couldn't be more different, with one of them writing sci-fi and the other fantasy. And after they become trapped together in a contraption that's trying to steal all of their writing ideas, they have to work together inside of each other's stories to try and escape. And truly the magic of Split Fiction is in how many ways this game can make you work together. So this is definitely a game where you either need to be in the same room to play, or at least in voice chat to be able to cooperate. I couldn't imagine doing it without it. Now, I will add, this is probably a game that you want to play with another gamer. This probably won't be a good pick if you're trying to play this with someone who doesn't really play games whatsoever. Some parts in it is pretty tricky, and if you're not really used to gaming, you might find it a little bit frustrating. Either way, I love this and I can't recommend it enough. It may not be the longest game on our list, but it's one that will give you a fantastic experience. Next up, let's talk about the rest of the Nintendo Switch lineup. So these are games that are $50 and higher. And starting us off is Mario Kart World. Now at full price, I'm going to put this in the don't buy category. There honestly is no reason why you should be paying $80 for this game. Is it a lot of fun? Absolutely. Is it one of the best Mario Karts? I definitely think so, especially considering that they're still giving us more updates and bringing more to the game. Does that mean you should pay $80 for it? Probably not though. If you're a lover of Mario Kart and can find this on any sort of offer though, this might be a good pickup for you. Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma is another game that I do really like, but I definitely say if you can pick it up on a sale, that makes it a lot easier for me to recommend. But if you're someone who's looking for a fantastic story that's voice acted, got full cutscenes, some classic RPG combat, but also the ability to run and manage multiple different towns. This might definitely be the game for you. It kind of took me by surprise just how much I wound up liking this, and you do get a solid 50 to 60 hours out of it. But I do think it is a little bit too expensive for what it is. But one game I most definitely think is worth the money is Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time. As this, once again, is an RPG meshed with being a life sim, but it's a game I've absolutely fallen in love with and have got so many hours out of it. Because not only does it have a fantastic story that I loved playing through, it also has an open world area for you to explore and level up, and it even has your very own town which you can build, decorate, and terraform. But the thing that keeps me coming back to Fantasy Life is the gameplay loop. There are so many different things for you to collect, for you to level up, for you to explore and find, that I find myself continuously coming back for more. Another game which is a lot of fun, but I'm hesitant to recommend to everyone, is Kirby Airriders. Now, is this game absolutely fantastic? Yes, it is. It does what it's set out to do incredibly well. It is such a detailed racing game with so many different modes, so many different things to explore other than just the main racing games. But is this a game everyone will enjoy playing for a long amount of time? That part I'm not so sure about. Because the thing is, I've played this for a while so far, and I can honestly say I'm not too sure what I'm doing. And I do know that this is a skill issue, but I also realize that a lot of people are going to be like me and maybe aren't seeking out spending this amount of time playing a game that they still don't understand. And again, I can't stress this enough. It's not that I find this game bad. It's just that I have more fun playing other games, and this is quite expensive. So this is a fantastic game for someone who knows that they love Kirby Airriders, or someone who loves racing games and can't wait to get into a new one, but this is most definitely a pretty niche first-party Nintendo game. That being said, one I can thoroughly recommend to just about everyone is Donkey Kong Bonanza. This feels like the spiritual successor to Mario Odyssey. And as someone who doesn't really feel like 3D platformers are something that I will seek out to play, I truly had an awful lot of fun. Because there's something just so satisfying about running around all the different levels and just smashing things. Now, I think to give you a good idea about difficulty levels, I found the game fine myself, but I did have to help out my dad with some of the boss levels. So hopefully that gives you somewhat of an idea about difficulty levels. But if you do find yourself in tricky situations, you can play this co-op to give yourself a little bit more of an edge. But not only is this a beautiful 3D platformer, it's just one that is an awful lot of fun to play. And the best part is, every time the game starts to feel a little bit repetitive, you enter a brand new area where the game changes things up and you get to play in a different way. And this is truly what Nintendo is best at. So Donkey Kong Bonanza is something I can thoroughly recommend. Next, let's talk about Hyrule Warriors: Age of Imprisonment. This is more of a PSA to just say that even though this looks like a Zelda game, this doesn't play like a Zelda game. This is one of those games where you're going to be fighting hordes of enemies, and the gameplay that you see right now is more or less the entire game. The only difference is you play against different characters and fight different enemies. So this is definitely not a game that will appeal to everyone who enjoyed Zelda. Now, that being said, this does give you an awful lot more cutscenes than Tears of the Kingdom ever gave us, as this follows the story of Zelda when she gets transported to the past in Tears of the Kingdom to fill in a little bit more about what she was up to. Now, this does look and play great on the Nintendo Switch too, but if I'm being honest, Hyrule Warrior games just aren't my style. I enjoy them a lot for the first 10 or so hours, but after that, I kind of start to feel like it's getting repetitive, and if the combat's not your style either, I just recommend going and watching the cutscenes on YouTube, if I'm honest. But yeah, this was more so just a warning to say, if you love Zelda games, this might not be what you think it is. Another game we probably need to talk about is Pokemon Legends ZA. Now, I want to start off by saying I did have a good time playing Pokemon Legends ZA. And even though I most definitely feel like the Pokemon Company could do so much more than what they've given us, this game to me was something I wound up putting a lot more hours into than I did Scarlet and Violet, just because I found it a lot more fun. If you didn't know, Pokemon Legends ZA is no longer a turn-based game, and instead switches out that combat for a real-time combat system. And whilst I found it a fun change, this might not be for everyone. Now, Pokemon did do their classic thing of doing no real cutscenes and no voice acting whatsoever, so please don't expect that this has changed things up completely from what you know and love from Pokemon. But if you know a Pokemon lover in your life who's been eyeing this up, I think this is something they will enjoy. Now, Pokemon Legends ZA has also just had the release of DLC content as well, which might be a good pickup if you already love Pokemon Legends ZA, as this adds even more missions to the game, more Pokemon for you to find and shiny hunt as well. One thing to bear in mind when it comes to Pokemon though, is that you won't get the full experience of the game without Nintendo Online. Which does bring me into the next section, which is gift ideas that aren't games. So one idea could be buying a Nintendo Switch Online, and for this you have two different options. So you either have the basic option, which just gives you the ability to play online and also play some of the retro library such as the NES games. Or you can also upgrade to the Online Plus expansion pass, which not only gives the ability to go online, but you also get access to the larger retro game catalog, and you also get some DLCs for free. So some of the big ones are the Switch 2 upgrades for Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. You also get the Happy Home Paradise DLC for Animal Crossing, which is a big one considering 3.0 is coming up. So if you know you're picking up any of the games that need Nintendo Switch Online, like Kirby Airriders, Pokemon, or Fantasy Life, then online membership might be the way to go. Another fantastic gift for Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch 2 lovers is a grip. My current favorites are either the D brand grip, or if you want a cheaper alternative, this grip from Skull & Co. Controllers are also a fantastic pickup if you like to play in docked mode a lot. The Switch 2's Pro Controller I've found to be one of my favorite controllers I've ever used. And if it's anything like the Switch 1's Pro Controller, it's going to last me the entire lifetime of the Nintendo Switch 2. But that is, especially in America, a very expensive controller. So there are third-party options to look into as well. Wired controllers like the one I have here will be the cheapest, and the more features you add on, the more expensive your controller is going to get. So you can just fine-tune what exactly you want out of it. Skins are also a fantastic pickup as well if you just want to change up the look and feel of the Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch 2. The one I have on here is made by Play Vital, and they have loads of different colors to pick from. Cases are also a fantastic pickup. One of my recent favorites is the Belkin gaming case, which has a power bank inside of it, which kind of makes up for the fact that the Switch 2's battery life is a little bit pants. Or you can go for a cute case like this one made by Geekshare. But that's it for my Christmas guide with all the games covered and some accessories too. Let me know your wish list in the comments down below. And if you want to see some of my most played games, click this video here.